This morning I'm going to show you how to do the pocket mask with elastic. I'm going to show you what you need. You're going to need your fabric, which is cut to the pattern that's included, which is 9 by 15 inches. You're going to need 2 pieces of elastic that are cut to 7 inches each. You can use rope elastic, or if you have flat elastic, just make sure it's very small. You're going to need something to mark with. You're going to need scissors, you're going to need some pins, and some of you will need a pipe cleaner. This is not true for all of the pocket masks that we are making, but if it calls for it for your particular project, you'll need some 4-inch pieces of pipe cleaner. All right, so let's get started. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to take your piece of fabric, and on one of the 9-inch edges, you're going to double turn 1/4 and 1/4 to hem that edge, okay? And then you're going to do the same thing on the other end. You're going to turn 1/4 inch and 1/4 inch, rolling that hem over and going to stitch that down. So I'm just going to roll my 1/4 inch edge, and I'm going to put a pin in there. It's going to be pretty tiny. So you're rolling over a total of 1/2 inch. And if you look on the pattern, you will see there is a little notch to indicate, and I've already marked it on here. I don't even know if you can see it. I'll show you on the pattern in just a minute how much to turn over. Let me show you on the pattern. So if you look on the pattern, you will see that there are some top notches and some bottom notches here, and that's just showing you how much to turn up for the hem. So we're going to get this pinned in place, and then we're going to sew it on the machine. So we're going to sew our pinned hem on each end. We're going to back stitch at the beginning and the end of our seam on all the seams we do here. Helps if you turn your machine on. Back stitching for permanent seam, and then I'm just going to sew that little hem down that I put in there. And when I get to the end, I'm going to back stitch again. Cut off my loose threads. And that's one of the hems, and we're going to do the same thing to this bottom edge. So now that we have hemmed each of our ends, 9-inch ends, what we're going to do is we're going to fold down 1 1/4 inch. And so I didn't mention this at the beginning, but you'll need a measuring tool, okay? Or you can use the template has a little notch where you should do that. But I'm going to measure 1 1/4 inch, and I'm going to make a little mark with my marking pin on each side. So you can see that. And then I'm just going to fold down where I've made those marks. And I'm just finger pressing this. You can pin it, you can press it with your iron. But you want to have 1 1/4 inch folded down like this to make sort of the opening for your pocket. Okay? Now, in the beginning, I told some of you, or all of you, that some of you would need a pipe cleaner. And so what this is going to do is this is going to make a little wire that's going to be able to be crimped on the nose. Not all of the pocket masks that we've had requested have these, but if you do need to do one, what you're going to want to do is take your 4-inch length of pipe cleaner, and you can use a pliers or you can just use your finger, and you want to kind of roll in the end of that pipe cleaner so the pokey part is not going to poke through, and do that on both ends of your pipe cleaner so that you just have a nice sort of little place there so it won't poke people. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold the pipe cleaner in half to find the middle of it. So that's the middle of my pipe cleaner there, all right, where my fold is. And then I'm going to fold this to find the middle. And I'm just going to finger press, or I could actually make a little mark here so I know where it is. And I'm going to raise up that flap, and where the center is, and the center of the pipe cleaner, I'm going to place my pipe cleaner, straighten it back out, place my pipe cleaner center and center. You can see that, okay? And then I'm going to put it right in that fold, and then I'm going to fold my flap back over. And then I'm going to take a couple of pins, and I'm going to pin the pipe cleaner in there. So I'm actually pinning just beyond the pipe cleaner to hold it into that fold. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew from the fold down around the pipe cleaner and back up to enclose it in the top of that fold. Okay, so let's do that right now. And remember, not everybody has to do this part, only if your pattern and your project specifically calls for the nose wire. So I'm sewing that nose wire in there. Just gonna sew a couple of stitches from the corner back and back stitch, and then I'm gonna come down to just below where that is. I'm gonna raise my presser foot and pivot, so I'm sewing. My presser foot is actually sitting on one side on top of the wire or the pipe cleaner. You can also use a bread twist tie for this. If you wanted to not have that sitting up on there, you could use a zipper foot if you wanted. So we're just gonna sew down, and we're making a little pocket basically in the fold for this little piece of wire or pipe cleaner. Okay, so I'm just going to keep sewing down the side of it, and when I get to the end, I'm going to stop, and I'm going to leave my needle in. I'm going to pivot, and then I'm going to sew toward the fold and back stitch so it stays in there. Okay. And then you'll be able to see that now that is enclosed in the fold, and I can bend this guy so that it can be more snug around the nose. So whether you've sewn your nose guard in or not, you've got your 1¼ inch flap here with its little hem on it, and you've got your hem down here at the bottom. So now we're going to go back to the pattern, and we have these little notches that show us where to put the elastic. So if you lay this on here, you will see that the fold, inside the fold is where we're going to put one piece of elastic, and the other end of the elastic is going to go right here where it says set second elastic to edge of notch. So I'm just going to make a little place down here so I can see, okay, and then I'm going to slide this over. Hope you can see what I'm doing, and do the same thing over here so I know exactly where it goes, and I know it goes in the fold up here, okay, because that's where the notch is. So I'm going to take my elastic and I'm going to sew it here, and then I'm going to loop it around and sew it here on each side, okay? And I'm not going to pin it right now. If you want to pin, you certainly can, but I'm just going to match it up with my notch as I sew it, okay? Okay, so now our next step is going to be to place our elastic. And so what we're going to do is we're going to follow these little notches on the pattern. And the first notch is really in the fold of that 1¼ inch flap that we've made. So that's going to be, the elastic's going to be right here. And then the second notch is down here a little ways. So if we line this up, we can go ahead and mark our notches here, and then slide this over and line it up and mark our notch here, okay? And then that's going to give us the place where we're going to put our elastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over, because the elastic is actually going to be sewn first to the right side. So we're going to put our elastic even with, let me move this because that'll make it a little easier to see. So we'll put our elastic just above the notch, okay? And we're going to put it even with the edge of the fabric. And then we will sort of curve this around, not twisting it. And we're going to put the other piece of elastic just below this notch. Now don't pin your flap, just pin the one layer. So it's going to look like that, and I've got my notch kind of flopped out here. And we're going to sew both of these at 1/4 of an inch, and then we're going to do the other side as well. So being sure when you sew this top part of the elastic that you flip your flap out. Flip your flap. Okay, we're going to put it under there, and we're going to sew at 1/4 of an inch, and we're just going to sew back and forth to really secure that elastic. Okay, and I'm going to pull my pin out of here. And I'm just sewing back and forth. You can sew a little into the seam allowance if you want to really secure it. You can see I really went overboard probably there, but that's fine. We don't want those to come apart. And then I will clip my thread, and then I'm going to go down here to the other piece and put it on just like I did. 1/4 inch. Take my pin out, and then I'm just going to sew back and forth over that as well. Okay. So now we've really secured that elastic. And we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So once you have your elastic in, you're going to take your envelope, and you're going to, first of all, you're going to take your flap and you're going to fold it backwards on itself like this, okay? And then you're going to fold the rest of it up to your flap fold like this. And then you're going to pin that side. So the flap is folded right sides to right sides, and then the entire fabric envelope is folded right sides to right sides and pinned down the side. So we'll pin that. That, and then we'll sew that side, and we'll do the other side just the same. So we're going to sew this whole thing at 1/4 of an inch, back stitching at the beginning and at the end. We'll do the same thing on the other side. All right, so once you've gotten your envelope sewn together on both sides, you can turn it right side out. You can use something blunt to poke through your corners. Not poke through them, but poke them out. Yeah, don't poke through them. And then the top, you're just going to fold that flap over, and you're basically going to have a little envelope where people can put a filter into the pocket mask. Now, the very last thing we're going to do is we're going to do some pleating. So what we're going to do is on the front of this, you have a pleating guide with your pattern. It looks like this. And we're going to lay our mask and on there. And we're going to mark where the pleats will go. So if you see these little marks down the side, that's what we're going to mark. Okay. And then we'll just slide it over and do the same thing on this side. I'm using this marking pen that will just sort of air erase after a little while. I'm going to move this out of the way. And then we will follow our guide here. All right, so we'll take the first pleat. We don't want to catch our little flap. We're going to match it up to the first mark, and we'll pin that. And the same thing over here. The first mark, not getting our little flap, to the first mark, to the second mark, I should say. Okay. And that's going to be our first pleat, and then we'll go to the second mark. And you can also press these in. I'm going to press mine after I pin them, but you can certainly press them as you do them. My iron is out of camera range, so okay, so there's my first two pleats and then my final pleat down here. So that's what it's going to look like. And you want to make sure that your flap here is not really getting caught in that top pleat, so you can still get in there. Let me show you that this way. So I'm going to be able to still open your flap up. Okay, and then we're just going to sew down the sides of the pleats. Just going to slide my machine up here, and I'm going to put it under here, and again just at like 1/4 to 1/8 of an inch, we're just sewing down the pleats down the sides. I'm just going to remove my pins as I come to them. Hope you guys can see that. And back stitch at the beginning and the end. So now you can see my pleats are secured on the side, and we'll do that on the other side as well. So I've pressed mine now, pressed the pleats in. There's the front, here's the back. The top of this looks a little bit wonky because remember I have that pipe cleaner in there, so if you don't have a pipe cleaner in there, you're just going to be much smoother looking. And this can be opened up to put on the face. You can open in here and put some sort of filter in there. And see if I can don't mind my hair. This is what it looks like when you're finished with it.